She cheated 500 times. I took revenge. Once. Introduction. Have you ever felt the ground disappear beneath your feet when discovering a betrayal? How far would you go to reclaim your dignity after being deceived by someone you trusted completely? Today's story explores the devastating journey of a man who discovers his wife's years of infidelity and the unconventional path he chooses toward closure. As you listen, ask yourself, is revenge ever truly satisfying? Where is the line between justice and becoming someone you never wanted to be? Let's begin this emotional journey together. The unraveling truth. I used to believe I knew what heartbreak felt like. I was wrong. The first evidence appeared on an ordinary Tuesday in April. I'd come home early from a business trip, planning to surprise Vanessa with dinner from her favorite restaurant. Instead, I was the one surprised by the unfamiliar cologne lingering in our bedroom and a wine glass with crimson lipstick still fresh on the rim. Vanessa always wore nude shades. When confronted, she laughed it off. Her sister had visited, borrowed her makeup, brought a male friend. The explanation came too quickly, too polished. But I believed her because the alternative threatened everything I'd built my life around for the past 8 years. That night, as Vanessa slept beside me in her silk nightgown, the emerald one I'd given her for our anniversary, I stared at the ceiling, fighting the unease spreading through my chest. Her breathing was too even, too deliberate. She wasn't asleep either. "I love you," I whispered, reaching for her hand in the darkness. Her fingers intertwined with mine after the briefest hesitation. "I love you too." 3 simple words that suddenly felt hollow. In the weeks that followed, I noticed changes so subtle they were almost imperceptible. Vanessa began dressing differently, her usual conservative office attire replaced by form-fitting dresses with plunging necklines, hemlines that kissed mid-thigh. The charcoal pencil skirt and cream blouse she once favored now collected dust in our closet. Her new crimson dress clung to every curve, the material so delicate it seemed to whisper against her skin when she moved. "Client meetings," she explained with a casual wave when I commented on her transformation. "The fashion industry is evolving." Vanessa worked in corporate finance, not fashion. But I nodded, swallowing questions that tasted like acid. Then came the late nights. The work emergencies. The weekend conferences with no hotel receipts or name badges. The texts she'd shield from my view. Her perfectly manicured nails, now always painted deep red, tapping rapid responses before placing. Her phone face down. I became a detective in my own home, searching for clues while hating myself for looking. What kind of husband spies on his wife? What kind of marriage dissolves into suspicion and silent accusations? The final confirmation came on our 8th anniversary. I'd planned a surprise weekend at the lake house where we'd honeymooned. When I told Vanessa to pack for a getaway, her eyes widened, not with excitement, but alarm. "This weekend? I can't possibly. The Henderson account." "I already spoke with your assistant, Michelle," I interrupted quietly. "She said you have no meetings scheduled." In fact, she seemed confused when I mentioned the Henderson account. The color drained from Vanessa's face, leaving her red lipstick a startling contrast against suddenly pale skin. She was wearing that black dress, the one with the lace back that exposed the constellation of freckles across her shoulder blades. I used to trace those freckles with my fingertips, connecting imaginary lines between them in the afterglow of lovemaking. "You checked up on me?" Her voice trembled with indignation rather than guilt. "Shouldn't I have?" What followed was the confession, partial, curated, designed to minimize damage. One indiscretion, a mistake, a momentary weakness with her colleague Robert. Just once, she insisted. It meant nothing. I might have believed her if I hadn't already discovered the truth. 3 weeks earlier, I'd found her second phone, hidden in the lining of her designer handbag. The The red leather one she never let out of her sight. The password was our wedding date. The irony wasn't lost on me. Messages dating back 7 years. Not just Robert. 5 different men. Hundreds of exchanges, arrangements, intimate photos, declarations. By my count, nearly 500 encounters during our 8-year marriage. Once, I repeated after her confession, my voice terrifyingly calm. You expect me to believe it was once? Her carefully applied makeup couldn't hide the flash of panic in her eyes. What do you mean? I simply placed the second phone on the table between us. She stared at it, recognition dawning with horrifying clarity across her features. Her hand flew to her throat, fingertips pressing against the delicate gold necklace I'd given her on our 5th anniversary. James, please, she began, reaching for me with trembling hands. The red dress shifted across her shoulders as she moved, revealing skin I once believed belonged only to my touch. I stepped back. I've seen everything, Vanessa. 7 years, 5 men, hundreds of lies. It's not what you think, she whispered, tears cutting tracks through her perfect makeup. I was lonely. You were always working, always... Don't, I interrupted, disgusted by the predictable deflection. Don't you dare blame me for your choices. That night I slept in a hotel while Vanessa's calls and texts flooded my primary phone. The next morning, I contacted a divorce attorney. Within a week, Vanessa moved out of our home, taking only her personal belongings. She didn't fight me on the house. Perhaps guilt, perhaps strategy. Her family had money, mine did not. I'd purchased the house before our marriage with an inheritance from my grandfather. The divorce proceedings stretched over months, each meeting a fresh wound. Vanessa arrived at each session immaculately dressed. Blood-red lips, designer clothes, that whispered wealth and confidence, but her eyes told a different story. Something like regret, or perhaps just the discomfort of consequences finally catching up to her actions. Her lawyer, a shark in an expensive suit, argued that despite her infidelity, Vanessa deserved half of everything. My attorney countered with the evidence: years of deception, separate accounts Vanessa had established with money diverted from our joint savings, trips taken with lovers on our credit cards. Throughout it all, I remained coldly composed. Friends worried about my lack of visible anger or grief. They didn't understand that I had moved beyond both emotions into something else entirely, a crystalline clarity of purpose. You see, revenge wasn't screaming matches or property destruction. It wasn't exposing her affairs to our social circle or her employer. Those were temporary satisfactions, fleeting moments that would fade with time. No, my revenge was far more subtle, and it began with a single phone call. 6 months after our divorce was finalized, Vanessa's father, the formidable Richard Calloway, celebrated his 70th birthday with an extravagant gala. The Calloways were old money, influential in both business and politics. Richard had never approved of me, viewing his daughter's marriage to a self-made architect as beneath her station. But he'd tolerated me, maintaining a cool civility during family gatherings. I hadn't been invited to the gala, of course, but I knew someone who had. Catherine Mills had been Richard's trusted executive assistant for 20 years. She was also my mother's closest friend, and had watched me grow up. When my parents died in the accident 10 years ago, Catherine had been there, helping me navigate grief while still barely an adult myself. "Are you sure about this, James?" Catherine asked. Over coffee, concern etched across her kind face. "Some doors can't be unclosed." "I'm sure," I replied, sliding a sealed envelope across the table. "He deserves to know the truth about his daughter before he makes a decision that affects hundreds of people." The decision was Richard's imminent announcement. Vanessa would be taking over as CEO of Calloway Industries when he retired next year. The company employed over 500 people across 3 states. Its charitable foundation supported dozens of community programs, and Vanessa had been systematically embezzling from both for years. This wasn't speculation or revenge-fueled fiction. While examining our finances during the divorce, I'd discovered discrepancies that led to offshore accounts. Following that, Thread had revealed Vanessa's elaborate scheme, siphoning funds through fabricated vendors and ghost employees, small amounts at first, growing bolder as years passed without detection. The evidence was all in that envelope. Not for the police, not yet. For her father. The night of the gala, I sat alone in my home office, nursing a glass of scotch as rain lashed against the windows. On my desk sat a single photograph, not of Vanessa and me, but of my parents on their 20th anniversary, smiling with the kind of genuine love I'd foolishly believed I'd found with my wife. My phone rang at exactly 10:17 p.m. Catherine's voice was hushed, background noise suggesting she'd stepped away from the party. "It's done," she said simply. He opened it during a private moment before the CEO announcement. "James, I've never seen Richard look like that." He called Vanessa into his study. The shouting was... She paused. "The announcement has been postponed indefinitely due to family matters." I thanked her and ended the call, feeling nothing like the satisfaction I'd anticipated. Instead, a strange emptiness expanded within my chest. This wasn't joy or vindication. It was simply the conclusion of a chapter that had consumed many years of my life. The following morning, the business news reported Richard Calloway's unexpected announcement of an internal audit at Callaway Industries, citing accounting irregularities. 2 weeks later, Vanessa left the country for an extended sabbatical in Europe. The company's press release indicated a mutual decision to pursue other opportunities. She called me once before leaving, the first direct contact since our divorce was finalized. "It was you," she said when I answered, her voice hollow. "Daddy knows everything. The company, the foundation. He's giving me a chance to leave." Quietly before the auditors finish, my name, the family reputation, her voice cracked. "You've taken everything." "No, Vanessa," I replied quietly. "I took revenge once. You cheated 500 times. The math still favors you." She was silent for so long I thought she'd hung up. Finally, she spoke in a whisper so soft I barely caught the words. "I did. Love you, James, in my way." "Your way wasn't love," I answered. "It was ownership. Goodbye, Vanessa." That was 3 years ago. I've rebuilt my life piece by piece. My architectural firm is thriving. I've reconnected with old friends, even cautiously begun dating again. Recently, I met someone who makes me laugh, who listens with genuine interest, whose touch doesn't carry the shadow of comparison. Last week, I received a postcard from Milan. No return address, no signature, just 7 words in familiar handwriting. "You were right. I'm sorry. Be happy." I threw it away without response. Some chapters don't need epilogues. The revenge I took wasn't about destroying Vanessa. It was about truth finally having its moment. The scales balancing, however imperfectly. It wasn't satisfaction I felt in the end, but liberation. The knowledge that I had faced betrayal without becoming someone I couldn't recognize in the mirror. She chose deception 500 times. I chose truth once. And in that equation, I finally found peace. Outro. What would you have done in James's position? Is exposing someone's wrongdoing truly revenge, or is it justice? Sometimes the line between the two becomes blurred when we're deeply hurt. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? How did you find the strength to move forward? Remember that healing is a journey, not a destination. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more emotional narratives that explore the complexities of relationships and human nature. Until next time, remember that your response to betrayal says more about your character than the betrayal itself.